but it would depend upon the amount of the filing, how broad it was, and the total effect that it would have. If it costs between $3,000 and $5,000, let's compare that cost with an increase in premiums to the insurance buying public of Oklahoma of $3, $5, $10 million, millions of dollars versus $1,000 or $3,000 or something of that nature.
They would bill us back for the cost of that audit. Okay, when we made another filing, then we would take the cost of that audit and add it into our expense factor as a cost of doing business at the next filing, so it would increase our cost of doing business and would ultimately reflect in the rates that we charge our policyholders.
Concerned about the safety of the public. We would like for every individual that starts out on this holiday weekend be able to go back to work or back to school or back to their homes or whatever. And the philosophy behind it is that we care, and if anything we can do to make that possible, if it's issue a warning citation, if it's issuing a ticket citation, or if it's just helping on stalled vehicles. That's what we intend to do. Let me check and see if I've got one in the car. I have a 10, but not a 20.
Okay. Had anybody stop in here, we got lots of coffee and cookies and iced tea and cold soda pop and lots of room to park your car and get out and stretch your legs, okay? Yeah, and that Kelly, it'll run right on down towards 13th Street. Cannonball? How about it, Cannonball? You got a copy on his coffee cup control?
Yeah, okay.
Well, we're going to run out of gasoline before the month's over because we've been selling too much gasoline for the last 3 days, and based on what we're doing today, we may very well be out of gasoline by Tuesday. And a lot of the other stations are running out of gas. I don't know that we'll have any consumers running out like on the road, but there's certainly going to be a lot of stations out before the month's over. And
sit down. Sit down. Good. All right. Touch it. Touch your head. Touch it. Okay. Rub your tummy. Rub your tummy. Good. Look at me. Good looking. Very good. Okay. Look at me. Good looking. Stand behind the chair. Behind the chair. Stand in front of the chair. Look at me. Lynn.
Huh?
Look at me. Stand in front of the chair. Look at me.
Huh?
Look in front of the, stand in front of the chair. In front of the chair.
Front of the chair.
Where are you standing? Lynn, look at me. Where are you standing?
I'm standing behind the chair.
You're standing
Yes.
beside the chair.
You're standing behind the chair.
Okay. We aren't doing any good on this. Lynn, look at me. What does this say? And your
Superstars 1979.
Okay. Tell Dad what it says. Look at me. It
It's
says.
Superstars 1979.
Good talking.
One of the other frustrations has been you have a lot of lay people who don't quite know how to deal with the problem. They refer to the autistic child as the icebox child because he's so withdrawn. It also tends to make the parents pretty withdrawn.
I went to the Olympic.
You good working. Bye, Lynn.
Bye.
Okay. May I have a hug? Okay. Bye-bye.
Daddy work.
Tell me bye. Tell me
Bye.
bye. Okay, let's go.
Then Daddy work.
Lynn, tell
After
Dad.
Daddy work.
Tell Dad, let's go home.
Let's go home.
Okay.
Association American Railway, big break. Sure. Sites also Santa Fe, and we're about at that point on our 9-day system, perhaps 12 days. Home economy, but operate for very long. Should we fail to get reasonably close to 100% allocation, or we hope priorities for vital service, or should we fail to find the spot fuel buys that we've been scrounging for, then certainly the only answer would be to consider what service reductions can be made in the least painful places.
The truckers are reluctant to come participate in the harvest because they don't know if they're going to be able to get fuel or not. And we've got to have both. I'm not arguing for the railroads or for the trucks. The railroads take one rail car is equal to 3 trucks as far as wheat goes, and we need them both. And we don't care who's going to move it, but this grain is going to have to be moved out of the fields.
Just in today's paper.
$35,000 for tick eradication, $5,000 more than last year. $358,000 general revenue for multi-county regional planning functions, same as last year. Senate Bill 95 is the DECA bill. The ayes have it, and that'll be the order. Now moves the bill be reported to pass. Senate Bill 107 is the appropriation of mental health. That's come from the second.
To fund the Will Rogers Research Project. That's the main project.
Second.
Dollars over as introduced.
$158,000 general revenue for multi-county regional planning functions, same.
Section 3 designation.
FTE is 89. Will there be questions? Move that the bill, conference committee report be adopted and the bill be reported to pass.
Carry them for our own self-protection. But there would be no charges of trespassing charged against any of us.
You know, nobody knows who we are. We don't represent any single company or any single group. We're just there, and kind of like the silent majority. That's what we are. We're the silent majority of truckers. And if we go broke, nobody cares, nobody knows us, and you know, we've had no response from the government or anybody about our problem. And hell, we're going broke, and it's kind of like Custer's last stand, man. We're just doing the best we can do with what we got. That comes out of our pockets, not out of the company's pockets. It's what little bit of profit we used to have. And, you know, it's food out of my kid's mouth and clothes off her back. And it kind of hits you right at home. We just want to show them who we are. And this is our way of doing it. And it's better to go broke and go out with some kind of resistance than just to go broke silently.
So what we would try and do, of course, is
just the environment has such a plays such an important part in in a person's attitude, and we know that the 1 hour a person may spend a day or whatever with a therapist is a small amount compared to the other 23 hours that the person has to live in a particular environment. So the milieu, or the environment that the person lives in, plays a great important part in their in their improvement. So we feel that it'll just upgrade the whole spirit of the facilities.
patients you see have their own clothing and things along these walls. Hold it a minute.
Late this afternoon, a man asked police to check the welfare of his elderly parents on Northeast 33rd Street. Inside the house, police found 3 bodies, an elderly male and female, and a 30-year-old man. The bodies had been there several days, and police say it appears to be a double murder and suicide.
If the victims are who we assume they are, it will be a mother, a father, and a son. It appears that they have been dead for several days, and they were all shot to death, yes.
We're going through
My religion is twofold in that I believe in the Bible, I believe in God, I believe there'll be a second coming of Christ, but I also believe in our ancient and traditional Cherokee religion. And in the end, I would guess that it would be my opinion that they both will eventually relate to the same one, because there's only one God.
Any kind of soft tracks is concerned. We've had one working day out of
meter zones on West California being introduced today with possible adoption with the emergency.
Bill, you've brought up Survey Company in about the 2100 block of South May.
And the community will continue to file civil rights complaints and grievances unless someone can and will explain to them exactly what we're talking about.
The greatest thing we can do is to get something done in a hurry about deciding when and where the road's going to be built. Because Ben, in the areas that you represent there, much of that housing was lost in there because of a lack of understanding on the part of the owners about what either urban renewal was up to or what the highway builders were up to.
Street, the southbound truck traffic has...
Bill, you've brought up several times, we had a case relative to... Much of that property has been allowed to deteriorate radically because their thinking tells them it's worth more, to do that than it is to worry about keeping it fixed up.
So if we want to save the housing that is not actually in the path of the road, the greatest thing we can do is to get something done in a hurry about deciding when and where the road's going to be built. They've got on the west side of the street.
In fact, maybe more than that. It not only tears up the residential streets because the way they live there, and you know they get disgusted and just let the properties run down.
Out of 3, less than 2 average days a week, unless we can get some spell.
What about the procedures leading up to that part? Are they working?
That's our spare helicopter.
That lightning's getting closer.
I know.
Yeah, I know the fact that
Oh yeah, I can see it.
First things first.
yeah, that
Charlie, come on.
They're running. If it rains again tonight like it did last night, it'll come out. It'll do some damage.
I'd like to express it as clearly as I can that I am madder than hell about the articles that have been carried these past 2 days in the Daily Oklahoman concerning the alleged theft of records regarding a lawsuit in which I, as Lieutenant Governor, was involved. But what irritates me more than anything is that I read with all the interest that I could have today's story saying that the files had been found, and not one line of apology came my way from the Oklahoman. And how all the puzzles, all the pieces of the puzzle just didn't fit together, and that it created the image to a lot of people that I personally was involved in these files' disappearances. I'm concerned that not one word of apology, because on March the 14th, 1970, Oklahoma knew for approximately 6 weeks that there was an alleged theft of records involving me, and without telling me, and without me finding out until this late Friday evening that such a alleged theft had occurred, they sat on it for 6 weeks. And when it became news, I became concerned that I would have a difficult time explaining to the people of Oklahoma why I could not find out who had allegedly stolen records involving me. In returning to the Capitol today, I stopped at the
And that's all there is to it. Some of them have already raised their family. A lot of confusion exists about what a daycare center.
1975 concerning city license. We are endeavoring to the very best of our ability as we're thinking of these children to give the working parents a choice between family daycare, where it's in the home with a home-like environment. Give these working parents a chance to choose between a family daycare and a daycare center. There's work for both of us, and we need many, many more family daycares.
you all the time. I probably talk to them every time. I definitely have attempted to do the right thing, and in my opinion and many others, to take the fellows to Washington and in fact go with them and to raise the money to do so. And of course this was accepted with the condition that I close before we leave, and I did not feel that we could close the business that would be bringing in the revenue to pay for the trip.
We didn't try.
Didn't you just see the fight?
Yeah.
Did you get it on a little bit of film or something?
No, we got it.
This will get it worked out.
It was a mutual agreement that we'd meet in neutral territory, and if I lost, by God, I'd pull my troops out of here. If he lost, he'd close his pumps down.
Who won?
Nobody.
So I went and fought that man so that we wouldn't have to kill some people or them kill us. And that's where we stood tonight. The whole thing has been an underreaction by the brass of Oklahoma City Police Department, and that's why it came to this. It was a mutual agreement that we'd meet in neutral territory, and if I lost, by God, I'd pull my troops out of here. If he lost, he'd close his pumps down.
Who won?
Nobody. The police broke it up.
So what are you going to do now?
Well, that's going to be up to the police right now.
I kept stalling, waiting. I had people in there calling again. Finally, our agreement was made that I would fight Tom Murray by myself. I am a Christian, I want to state that, and I'm God's anointed. I knew that man could not whip me when I went out there. He's an ex-Marine and I'm an ex-Marine. We understand each other. So I went and fought that man so that we wouldn't have to kill some people or them kill us. And that's where we stood tonight. The whole thing has been an underreaction by the brass of Oklahoma City Police Department, and that's why it came to this.
We've been out here every day since this thing has started. We've had officers pulled out of districts, taken off the streets, and they've sit out here for 8 hours per shift. Plus, there's been an off-duty officer that's been staying out here also.
What about the complaints that Jerry just made, though, that there weren't any officers here when the trouble began?
It got caught right in shift change, just right in the middle of shift change. And all the crime that was taking place at that particular instance, 3 armed robberies going down at the same time, just bang, bang, bang.
Did you see the fight?
Yeah.
Did you get it on a little bit of film or something?
No, we got it. Is this guy's name Tom Murray?
Tom Murray.
Okay.
Use the wire from a cord. Get up and it gets up. Oh, I go pull it down.
Oh, yeah, it's supposed to be T. Stop those down.
to the state and to the city and to the church, and St. Louis University to the states of... All right, now let's have some questions. To go to a... I believe profoundly in independent higher education. I cannot think of anything more awkward for this society than for there to develop what in effect would be a monopoly of higher education on the part of tax-supported institutions.
Yeah, but you never got me in this predicament.
I got you with your face all bloody the other night.
Hold that up and chin my phone. What are you doing? Just following Tom around? Yeah, man. Am I supposed to hold that here?
That's good enough. Just a little bit higher. Time with your hands.
Well, it's not good.
Thank you.
They're just doing their job, just like I'm doing my job. I don't feel the judge is right. I don't feel I'm ought to have that stiff of a bond, but these officers are just doing their job just like it. They don't have any other choice.
So we'll have to kind of fill ours in then. Huh? It won't matter that much though, because once we put that cement, well, see, we're square here now. This you want to square here. By using this right here, where it looks like it's...
Who's Jimmy?
That's the whole one.
Whole one there and the other one.
Hey, Gabby, no one. Huh?
Hey.
Laetrile, and then they kill you with chemo, and they tell me every time they give it to me, now this may kill you.
He said that the chemotherapy does.
I have a choice, and they say no. So it's really, it's quite.
Now that they're going to be about third-rate citizens, and they're going to have to go over and smuggle it across or find somebody else to do it for them, because A cancer patient will do anything to stay alive, and this chemotherapy and radiation just killed them.
There were 3 issues that we presented to the Supreme Court for consideration. The issue they ruled on today was only one of those 3, and in fact they ruled against us on that one. But on 2 other issues, which we feel to be our stronger issues, that being the argument that Laetrile would be grandfathered from certain provisions of the Act, and that to deny a terminal cancer patient use of Laetrile would be a deprivation of constitutional rights, are still left and have been remanded to the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals for a determination.
I think they got carried away, and they went too far. And if this truck stop doesn't go along with them, that truck stop's business.
Well, basically, our fueling business has been tremendous, and we've had all the way through this thing. I talked to some drivers here this evening that passed us up this week because of the things that were going on, and they said that they was glad that we were back in operation, and I had many of them to say to me that they would make it up to me after this was all over, and they're already starting to prove it.
With the wheat price being up, that'll help the economy here in town. And of course, when the economy's up, well, people spend money, and that makes it possible for us to make money. They operate just like everybody else. If you got money, you can spend it. If you don't have any, you can't spend any of it.
we drove up here and he was laying in the road, just floundering around. He didn't know what he was doing. And I asked him what happened because he's all covered with blood. And he said a bunch of kids shot him. And I said, were you out jogging? And he said, yeah. And then he just started in telling me to take him to Mercy Hospital and started spelling out his name and telling me his doctor's names. But you couldn't hardly understand him because I think he was in shock.
What was his
So, Loy Lackey is what he said. Well, we drove up here and he was laying in the road, just floundering around. He didn't know what he was doing. And I asked him what happened because he's all covered with blood. And he said a bunch of kids shot him. And I said, were you out jogging? And he said, yeah. And then he just started in telling me to take him to Mercy Hospital and started spelling out his name and telling me his doctor's names. But you couldn't hardly understand him because I think he was in shock.
Got them? Okay. That, and report back to the Planning and Research Department of the Department of Corrections. The board unanimously rejects this recommendation. The essential problem is that Benton does not agree with certain powerful legislators and is being punished for the mere expression of his professional opinions. The committee has not proven anything beyond this, and even in its recommendations and findings chooses vague and evasive language reflecting the lack of hard evidence of serious wrongdoing. This blatant witch hunt flies in the face of justice and threatens all agency heads who refuse to be puppets and all state employees who dare to disagree with political officials.
It simply reduces the ability for someday point, but then now that's been rescinded.
The independent trucker strike is causing problems getting livestock to packing plants and processed meat to retail stores. The executive vice president of Wilson Foods, Richard Berg, says Oklahomans can expect short supplies of meat this weekend and higher meat prices as the cost of diesel rises.
Certainly the supplies will become tighter over time if the situation continues. I don't think there's a current problem in the stores today. I think that they've been able to get adequate supplies, even though the frequency of deliveries obviously is down, and it's more difficult to get trucks of meat into the area from outside outside into the Oklahoma area.
Although Oklahoma can expect some meat shortages, Berg says the situation is more critical in the southeastern states where working truckers fear shooting incidents. Arlene Taft, News Center 4.